You've been taught to give, to sacrifice, to put your money where your faith is, but let's get real for a second. Too many people are giving not from a place of strength, not from love, but from fear. Fear that if they don't, something bad is going to happen. Fear that they'll miss out on a blessing. Fear that they'll be seen as less faithful, less holy, less worthy. And that's the trap. That's the manipulation. That's the dark corner nobody wants to shine a light on. But I will, because somebody needs to say it. If you are giving while your heart is trembling, while your mind is racing, while your spirit is saying, I'm not okay with this, then that's not giving. That's guilt in disguise. That's not worship. That's worry. That's not faith. That's fear in a nice outfit trying to pass for devotion. Giving is supposed to be freeing, not enslaving. It's supposed to make you feel more whole, not more burdened. But how many times have you sat there, paycheck barely covering the basics, and still felt forced pressured to give something you didn't even have to spare? Not because your heart wanted to, but because your spirit was scared not to. Let me tell you something, with all the fire I've got in me, that's not what giving is meant to be. That's not divine. That's not righteous. That's psychological control wrapped in religious language. You've been taught to believe that withholding your last dollar somehow makes you a bad person, that holding on to what little you have is a sign of weak faith. That is not true. That is spiritual abuse wearing a smile. See, real giving doesn't come from a place of panic. It comes from a place of peace. When you give out of gratitude, something shifts in the atmosphere. Something stirs in your soul. You're not giving because you're afraid of what'll happen if you don't. You're giving because you're grateful for what's already been done. That's the kind of giving that moves mountains. That's the kind of giving that multiplies. Not just your money, but your peace, your clarity, your joy. But when you give out of fear, it doesn't expand you, it shrinks you. You walk away smaller, tighter, more anxious. That's not divine energy. That's debt-disguised devotion. The truth is, no higher power is sitting up in the sky, tallying your donations and deciding whether or not to bless you. The universe doesn't work like that. Love doesn't work like that. And any system that tells you it does, that's not faith, it's fear-based economics wrapped in scripture. It's time to wake up to that. Start giving because your heart is full, not because your mind is terrified. Give when it brings you joy. Give when you can, not when you're barely surviving. And when you can't give a dime, lift your hands, lift your voice, lift someone else's spirit that's giving too. That's holy too. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful gift you can offer is your truth, your love, and your presence. And when you give that from a place of peace, not panic, you tap into a power that no offering plate can hold. So stop giving out of guilt. Let that go. Burn it up. Leave it behind. You don't owe your fear another dime. What you do owe this world is your truth, your love, and the freedom to give without chains. That's where the real blessing lies. You've been made to believe that blessings have a price tag. That favor is something you've got to earn. That the doors of heaven only swing open if your offering is big enough. Let me stop you right there. Because that is a lie dressed up in tradition. You don't have to buy your blessings. You don't have to pay for grace. You don't need a receipt to prove you're worthy of miracles. You're already blessed, not because of what you've given, but because of who you are. Because you woke up this morning with breath in your lungs. Because there's purpose pumping through your veins even when you feel lost. Because you've got a light inside you that no one, not fear, not doubt, not guilt, can snuff out. But too many people are walking around thinking they've got to earn what's already theirs, like they've got to fight just to be loved, like they've got to sacrifice their peace, their last dollar, their dignity, just to get a taste of divine favor. That's not faith. That's spiritual performance. And you were not made to perform. You were made to live, to rise, to overflow. You think the giver of all things is measuring your worth by the numbers in your bank account? You think heaven checks your balance before it blesses you? Stop it. Your value was stamped on you before you were even born. You came into this world approved. You came in enough. And no amount of giving or withholding can change that. But some of you have been so conditioned to believe that lack is your fault, that if your life isn't overflowing, it's because you didn't give enough. That if you're struggling, it must be because you're under some curse. That if you're broke, it must be because you didn't sow a seed big enough. Let me say this with fire in my voice and no apology. There is no price tag on your breakthrough. There is no bill attached to your healing. There is no toll gate between you and your destiny. You don't have to buy what was already written for you. What's for you doesn't come through manipulation. It doesn't come through pressure. It comes through alignment. It comes through faith that isn't afraid to say no. It comes through trusting that the power moving in your life is bigger than money, bigger than guilt, bigger than the lies that told you to empty your pockets just to feel clean. Now listen, giving is good, giving is beautiful, giving is powerful, but giving isn't payment, it's not a trade, it's not a bribe. If you're giving because you believe you have to buy your place at the table, baby, let me tell you, you've already got a seat. The table was set before you ever knew it existed. You were invited before you even knew how to speak the language. So walk in like you belong, speak like you're chosen, live like you're already blessed, because you are, not because of what you gave, not because of how much you sacrificed, but because your very existence carries favor. The real blessing doesn't come from the outside, it flows from within, from the fire in your spirit, from the clarity in your soul, from the love in your heart that refuses to be sold or silenced. You don't need to buy what's already yours. You just need to receive it, believe it, and live like you finally know the truth. You've been taught that giving is a transaction, like it's some divine business deal. You give this, you get that, like heaven is a vending machine and your generosity is the coin. That's the kind of thinking that robs giving of its power. That's the surface level logic that keeps people stuck in cycles of fear, shame, and performance. But real giving doesn't live in the transaction. Real giving transforms you. It changes you from the inside out. Because when you give with a pure heart, when you give not because you're trying to get something, but because your soul is overflowing, something happens, something deep, something that money can't measure. Your spirit stretches. Your mindset shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone desperate for approval, and you start recognizing yourself as someone worthy, whole, and powerful. See, a transaction is about keeping score. A transaction says, if I give this, I better get something back. But transformation doesn't keep receipts. Transformation gives and grows. Transformation flows from alignment, from clarity, from love, so strong it can't help but spill into the world around you. When you give from that place, it's not just an act, it's a declaration. It's a statement to the universe that says, I have enough, I am enough, and I live from overflow. But you've got to be honest. Ask yourself, why do you give? Is it because you were told that if you didn't, you'd be cursed? Is it because you're scared to disobey? Is it because you've been made to believe that blessings are on a budget and you have to pay up to get your portion? Or are you giving because your heart is full? Because you're tapped into something real, something pure? Because you've recognized that giving doesn't reduce you, it expands you. That's the shift. That's where the power lives. When giving isn't about fear, but about fire. When it's not about trading money for miracles, but about showing up in your truth and saying, I believe in abundance so deeply that I live it. I live it through my generosity. I live it through my love. I live it through how I pour into others. That's transformation. That's divine. That's where freedom starts. And here's the thing, transformation doesn't require a number. It doesn't care if you gave 10 cents or $10,000. It's not about the amount. It's about the energy behind it. It's about whether you gave from freedom or from fear, from power or from pressure, from love or from guilt. And let's be real, some of the most powerful giving has nothing to do with money at all. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's attention. Sometimes it's forgiveness. Sometimes it's choosing to show up when you feel broken but still want to serve. That kind of giving, that's sacred. That's what transforms lives, starting with your own. So forget the transaction mindset. Leave it behind. You're not here to play some spiritual game of give and take. You're here to grow. You're here to elevate. You're here to shift the atmosphere when you show up, not because you want to impress anybody, but because your very presence carries light, carries truth, carries power. And when your giving comes from that source, you don't just give, you ignite. You light fires in dark places. You inspire change. You heal, uplift, awaken. That's transformation. That's the kind of giving this world is starving for. There comes a point when you have to stop nodding your head just because everyone else is nodding. You have to stop saying amen just because the room got loud. You have to stop following blindly and start thinking boldly. Because blind faith without wisdom, that's not spiritual, that's not powerful, that's prison. You were never created to follow without question. You were never meant to be led by fear, silenced by tradition, or controlled by guilt. That's not faith. That's bondage dressed in holy robes. And too many people are trapped in it, calling it obedience, calling it surrender, when really it's just silence. It's just fear wrapped up in religion. Let me tell you something loud and clear. Wisdom is not rebellion. Discernment is not disrespect. Asking questions doesn't make you less spiritual. It makes you awake. It makes you dangerous to systems that thrive on your silence. It makes you a threat to manipulation, and you were never meant to be manipulated. You were meant to be empowered. You have a right to ask why. You have a right to ask, where's this going? You have a right to ask, does this align with truth, or is this just tradition? Because real faith isn't afraid of questions. Real truth doesn't need to hide behind rituals and routines. Real power invites curiosity. Real power welcomes your mind, your heart, and your voice. But some people don't want that. They want obedience without understanding. They want submission without thought. Because the moment you start thinking, the moment you start seeing, you can't be controlled the same way anymore. And that scares them. You're not here to be another quiet follower, scared to step out of line. You're here to rise. You're here to discern. You're here to walk with clarity, not just with habit. If you keep living your life doing things just because that's how it's always been done, you'll miss the entire reason you were called in the first place. It is not disrespectful to say, I need understanding. It is not unfaithful to say, that doesn't sit right in my spirit. It is not wrong to pause and say, I need truth, not just noise. Some of the most powerful moments of your life will come when you finally stop and ask yourself, is this really truth, or is this fear talking? Because fear loves to dress up like righteousness. It loves to sound holy while it chokes you. But wisdom, real wisdom, is liberating. It breathes, it flows, it opens your eyes, and once you see, you can't unsee. And no, it won't always be comfortable. Yes, people will question you. They'll say you're straying. They'll say you're rebellious. But you're not rebellious. You're awakening. You're remembering that faith was never supposed to be blind. It was supposed to be alive, awake, aware. You were given a mind for a reason. You were given discernment for a purpose. And when you honor that, when you listen to the still small voice that says, there's more to this, you step into real power, not fear-based obedience, not robotic giving, not performative worship, but deep, unshakable, grounded truth. You don't have to be afraid to think. You don't have to fear your own questions. You don't have to shut down your intuition to fit into a mold. Your spiritual walk was never supposed to be a script. It was meant to be a journey. One that you walk with your eyes wide open and your heart fully engaged. That's where the real power is, not in staying blind, but in finally seeing. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that your value is connected to how much you give, that the more you put in the basket, the more worthy you are, that if you don't give, you're falling short, that if you can't afford to give, you must not have enough faith. Let me burn that lie down right now. Your wallet does not define your worth. You are not the amount in your bank account. You are not the zeros on your paycheck. You are not your lack, your debt, or your financial situation. You are more than money. You are purpose. You are power. You are divinely designed with value that no dollar sign can measure. But they don't tell you that, do they? They tell you to keep giving even when you're running on empty. They tell you to push through even when your bills are unpaid. They tell you that blessing comes through sacrifice, but never seem to notice how many of you are sacrificing your peace, your stability, your sanity, and still wondering why nothing's changing. Let me say this to you with all the fire I've got. You don't have to be financially abundant to be spiritually powerful. Some of the most anointed people are the ones who have the least in their pockets, but the most in their hearts. Some of the most faithful people are the ones who have cried over not being able to give, not realizing their tears were an offering, not realizing their faith was already seen, already honored, already enough. You are not less holy because you couldn't give. You are not less faithful because you said, I can't right now. You are not less chosen because your hands were empty. Your value was never meant to be tied to money. But systems, man-made systems, convinced you otherwise. They made you think that money is the measure of devotion, that your tithes are a scoreboard, that generosity only counts when it's financial. Let me free you from that today. Your worth is not up for auction. It's not something you buy back with dollars and cents. You were born worthy. You were born valuable. You were born with a light that money can't dim. And here's the truth. You can give in 1,000 ways that don't cost a single cent. You can speak life into someone who's breaking. You can show up for a friend who's drowning in silence. You can lift people with your words, your presence, your love. That is giving. That is sacred. That is holy. But no one claps for that kind of giving, do they? No one praises the person who stayed up all night encouraging someone through grief. No one celebrates the one who chose kindness when they had every reason to break. But heaven sees it. The universe moves for it, and your soul knows it. So stop equating money with meaning. Stop thinking your lack of funds means you lack favor. Stop apologizing for not having more to give. You are the gift. You are the blessing. You are the offering. And when you show up with love, with presence, with authenticity, you are giving something money can never match. Let them keep their numbers. You keep your peace. You walk in your truth. You honor your own worth, even if you don't have a dime to your name. Because the truth is, you are priceless. Not because of what you give, but because of who you are. Everybody keeps talking about giving money, giving things, giving tithes, but let me ask you something real. When was the last time you gave your heart? Not your cash, not your leftovers, not what you thought would keep you in good standing with people or tradition, but your heart, your truth, your real self, because that's the most powerful gift you could ever give. Not because it costs money, but because it costs you. See, the greatest offering is not in your hand, it's in your spirit. It's in the way you show up when no one's clapping. It's in the way you love people, even when your own heart is still healing. It's in the way you keep showing up for life when everything in you wants to give up. That's the gift that shifts atmospheres. That's the kind of giving that moves mountains. But they don't preach that. They teach you to give out of duty. They teach you to give because you're told. They teach you to give so you won't feel guilty. But they rarely teach you how to give from your soul, how to pour your whole self into what you do, how to walk in the room and shift it with your authenticity, not your wallet. Let me tell you something they don't say often enough. Your heart is more valuable than any offering you could drop in a bucket. You could give $1 million and it still wouldn't match the weight of one moment of real love, one word spoken in truth, one act of compassion when nobody's watching. That's priceless. That's divine. That's what changes lives. And don't get it twisted. This world isn't starving for more money. It's starving for realness. It's starving for people to show up with their guard down, their ego off, their heart wide open. It's craving connection, not performance. And you were born to meet that need. You were born to be the kind of giver who doesn't just give to look good, but gives to do good, gives to heal, gives to restore, gives because your spirit knows it was made for more. So if all you've got to give is your presence, give it fully. If all you've got to give is your time, show up with intention. If all you've got to give is a kind word, make it thunder. If all you've got to give is your story, tell it like it matters, because it does. You don't need a title. You don't need a platform. You don't need a budget. You just need a willing heart. One that says, I'm here, I'm real, I care, I give my truth. That's what transforms people. That's what leaves a legacy. That's what lights a fire no one can put out. And yes, it's vulnerable, it's risky, it's raw, because giving your heart means they might not get it, they might not respect it, they might not appreciate it. But you don't give for validation, you give because your soul won't let you stay silent, because your love is too loud to hold back, because your truth is too heavy to carry alone. And when you pour it out into the world, you don't just give, you free others to do the same. So forget what they told you. Forget the pressure to look generous when your spirit's dry. Stop pretending that a financial gift can replace the miracle of a genuine heart. It can't. It never will. Your heart is the altar. Your life is the offering. Your truth is the breakthrough someone's been praying for. And when you give from that place, that's not just giving, that's divine power in motion.